What if I told you that some of gospel music's most powerful voices, the very ones who lifted millions with songs of faith, were hiding a truth the church wasn't ready to hear? Behind the hallelujahs and sold-out choirs, these legends carried secrets that could have shattered their careers. In an industry built on devotion and image, they had to choose between honesty and acceptance. But their stories didn't end in silence. They paved the way for others to sing freely. These are 30 gospel legends who quietly hid that they were gay, and the truth behind the songs that changed everything. 30. Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston's angelic voice began in the church where gospel harmonies shaped her sound. But behind that heavenly talent was a private world few truly knew. Her deep connection with Robin Crawford sparked years of whispers that followed her to the top of fame. While the public celebrated her as a symbol of purity and power, she quietly carried the pressure of being perfect in a world that punished difference. Her story reminds us how silence can echo louder than any song. 29. Thomas Whitfield. Thomas Whitfield was called the maestro of gospel music, known for his lush arrangements and soul-stirring productions. But behind the brilliance, he faced a struggle that few dared to name. Those close to him saw both his spiritual passion and the emotional pain that came from hiding a part of himself. His music spoke of grace and redemption, perhaps because he knew what it felt like to need both. Even today, his melodies carry that quiet ache of truth unspoken. 28. Kirk Franklin. Kirk Franklin revolutionized modern gospel with his fearless energy and raw emotion. But behind the music that lifted millions was a man wrestling with identity, pressure, and public image. His honesty about inner battles, addiction, shame, and self-doubt made many wonder what he wasn't saying out loud. In a genre that often fears imperfection, Kirk's vulnerability felt like rebellion. Though never openly labeled, his openness about struggle made him a quiet symbol for those still learning to love themselves. 27. B. Chase Williams. B. Chase Williams brought fire and creativity to gospel choirs with a bold, youthful sound. Yet behind his confident direction was a man navigating the conflict between faith and authenticity. His artistry spoke louder than any confession, filled with freedom, expression, and unfiltered emotion. Within every harmony, there was both celebration and secrecy, a balance many gospel legends knew too well. Through music, he found a safe place to be seen without ever saying a word. 26. Shirley Miller Flunder. Shirley Miller Flunder's gospel journey wasn't just about her voice. It was about courage. As the wife of Bishop Yvette Flunder, she stood proudly beside her partner in a world that once turned its back on love like theirs. Together, they proved that faith and truth could coexist without apology. Her quiet strength and devotion spoke louder than judgment, inspiring countless believers who felt unseen. In the church's most sacred space, she found freedom in simply being real. 25. Lashin Pace. Lashin Pace had a voice that could bring a congregation to tears. But behind her powerful performances were layers of pain, heartbreak, and guarded truth. Her life reflected the struggle of many gospel women who hid their deepest selves to survive in a world built on image. Through every song of deliverance, she released parts of her truth into the music. Even as rumors swirled, she let her gift speak for her, leaving behind a legacy of soulful honesty. 24. Anthony Williams. Anthony Williams wasn't a household name, but his influence ran deep in gospel choirs everywhere. He arranged voices like a painter mixing colors, carefully, passionately, and with heart. Yet beneath his gentle leadership, he carried a quiet secret that shaped his art. He used harmony as healing, turning unspoken truths into sound. His choirs never knew that every joyful note came from a place of both celebration and struggle. His music became his way of saying what words couldn't. 23. Kirk Talley. Kirk Talley's rise in Southern gospel was nothing short of remarkable until his truth became public. Once praised for his pure tenor voice and devotion, he suddenly faced rejection from the very community he'd devoted his life to. Instead of silence, he chose resilience. Though shunned by the traditional gospel world, his faith never left him. He became a living reminder that being true to yourself sometimes means losing everything, but finding peace in return. 22. James Hall. James Hall built his name on powerful choirs, bold performances, and fearless creativity. His style broke the mold: flashy clothes, sharp choreography, and an unmistakable stage presence. But that same boldness made him a target in an industry that feared what it couldn't label. Behind the applause, he walked a thin line between expression and judgment. His music became both his shield and his truth, allowing him to shine without needing to explain who he really was. 21. Twinkie Clark. Twinkie Clark, the musical genius of the Clark sisters, shaped gospel forever with her songwriting and keyboard mastery. Yet behind her brilliance was a lifetime of pressure, balancing faith, fame, and the need to appear perfect. Her lyrics about love, grace, and redemption felt personal, as if she was writing from experience few could understand. Through music, she expressed what words couldn't say. Every chord she played carried a quiet kind of truth, hidden beneath the church's spotlight. 20. Ann Nesby. Ann Nesby brought soul, passion, and strength into gospel music, blending it beautifully with R&B flavor. Her energy made every performance unforgettable, but like many before her, she learned to keep her private life guarded. In an industry that demanded image over honesty, she found ways to express herself. Through her sound, her songs about love and acceptance carried a deeper meaning, touching those who also lived in quiet disguise. She became proof that truth can sing louder than gossip. 19. Yvette Flunder Bishop. Yvette Flunder's story is one of fearless faith. A gospel singer turned pastor, she defied church tradition by openly living her truth while spreading a message of inclusion. Her voice carried power, but her honesty carried freedom. In a space where silence was expected, she spoke up and created a ministry where everyone could belong. Her courage didn't just challenge old beliefs, it changed lives. She became a living testament that real faith can't exist without truth. 18. David Walker. David Walker of the Mighty Clouds of Joy brought electrifying energy to gospel stages across the country. His performances were joyful, but his personal life was shadowed by rumors that followed him quietly. While others hid behind tradition, David found peace in simply expressing his gift. His deep, soulful delivery felt like a coded message of release and freedom. Behind the bright lights and matching suits, he lived a story of faith, fear, and unspoken truth carried through song. 17. Billy Preston. Billy Preston was called the fifth Beatle, but his first love was gospel. Raised in church, he brought that spirit to every piano note and performance. Yet fame came with pain, as rumors about his private life chased him everywhere he went. Behind his smile and unmatched talent was a man fighting to reconcile faith with identity. His music always felt emotional, like he was telling the world who he really was, just not in words. 16. Sylvester. Before becoming a disco legend, Sylvester was a church boy with a voice that could move heaven itself. His gospel roots shaped his bold stage presence, glitter, and confidence. But inside, he carried the pain of being rejected by the same faith that first celebrated his gift. In the gospel, he learned harmony. In life, he fought for acceptance. His later success in disco wasn't rebellion, it was freedom. Through every note, he turned the shame he once felt into pure, unapologetic joy. 15. Keith Pringle. Keith Pringle's voice brought revival to churches across America. His songs were full of power, faith, and devotion. Yet behind that fire stood a man quietly battling the weight of expectation. In the church world, image mattered more than honesty, and so he hid what made him different. Still, that tension fueled his music, giving it an unmatched emotional depth. Every time he sang about healing, you could feel the ache of a man trying to heal himself too. 14. Walter Hawkins. Walter Hawkins turned gospel into art. His smooth, heartfelt sound brought worship into homes far beyond church walls. But few knew the emotional battles behind that gentle smile. Like many of his peers, he lived in a time when silence was the only way to survive. His songs about forgiveness, love, and grace often felt like confessions wrapped in melody. In every lyric, you could hear the quiet cry of someone who longed for freedom as much as faith. 13. Donnie McClurkin. Donnie McClurkin's story is one of the most talked about in gospel history. With his powerful testimony and unmatched voice, he inspired millions, but also revealed the painful struggle between his beliefs and his identity. His journey exposed the emotional war that many gospel singers faced in silence. Every time he sang about redemption, it felt deeply personal, as if he was trying to save both his soul and his heart. His honesty broke barriers, even when it caused controversy. 12. Tonex, B. Slade. Tonex, later known as B. Slade, shocked gospel audiences with his creativity and fearless truth. His music was loud, emotional, and impossible to ignore. When he openly spoke about being gay, the industry turned its back on him. But he never stopped singing. His art became his protest, his praise, and his freedom. In a world that demanded silence, Tonex shouted his truth through every lyric. His courage changed the gospel forever, proving that faith doesn't end where authenticity begins. 11. James Bignon. James Bignon was known for his rich choir arrangements and deep devotion to gospel music. But behind the harmonies was a story the church refused to hear. Quietly, he carried the weight of being different in a world built on judgment. His smile on stage hid the fear of being found out. Yet even in silence, his work spoke volumes about strength and endurance. His music became a safe place, a space where love and acceptance lived between the notes. 10. Richard Smallwood. Richard Smallwood's music feels like a prayer set to melody, full of beauty, pain, and longing. Behind his timeless songs was a man who quietly battled depression and loneliness while carrying a secret the world wasn't ready to accept. His writing came from deep within, turning his silent struggle into worship that felt deeply human. When people heard total praise, they felt peace. What they didn't know was that it came from a heart learning to find peace, too. 9. Carl Bean. Carl Bean was one of the few gospel voices brave enough to sing his truth out loud. Before he became a bishop, he recorded, "I Was Born This Way," a bold declaration that love and faith could coexist. That song made him both celebrated and condemned. He built a ministry for people who felt rejected by the church, giving them a place to belong. His voice carried not just gospel, but liberation. Through him, hiding turned into healing. 8. Clara Ward. Clara Ward was pure gospel royalty. Her charisma, her stage presence, and her unmatched vocal power made her unforgettable. Yet fame couldn't protect her from whispers about her personal life. In an era when women were expected to fit the church's narrow image, she dared to lead, travel, and love on her own terms. Her songs about deliverance and strength came from real pain. She lived as she sang, boldly, beautifully, and just quietly enough to survive. 7. Marvin Yancey. Marvin Yancey was known for his songwriting genius and his connection to Natalie Cole, but few realized how complex his private world was. He grew up in the church, where image meant everything. Beneath his quiet charm was a deep need for acceptance and freedom that the gospel often denied. His songs about love and grace carried traces of that inner tension. Through music, he created the peace he couldn't always find in life, letting melodies say what words couldn't. 6. James Herndon. James Herndon's gospel career was filled with hope and heartbreak. A talented singer and pianist, he worked with legends, but lived in the shadow of rumor and rejection. When his truth became public, many turned away, but he never stopped believing. His courage to keep singing after being cast out became an act of quiet rebellion. The same church that silenced him once celebrated his songs. In the end, his legacy proved that honesty and faith can coexist after all. 5. Ricky Dillard. Ricky Dillard brought fire and joy to gospel choirs like no one else. His energetic directing style, colorful fashion, and fearless confidence made him a standout. But behind the glitz, there was always quiet talk from the pews. Instead of shrinking, he turned his artistry into armor. His performances were filled with power, passion, and freedom, everything he couldn't always say out loud. Through every shout and every song, Ricky turned gossip into glory, proving that authenticity shines brighter than judgment. 4. Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Sister Rosetta Tharpe was a force of nature, guitar in hand, voice full of fire, and spirit unstoppable. She shaped rock and roll before it even had a name, but the church never quite knew what to do with her. Behind the gospel power was a woman who loved freely, even when it defied tradition. Her relationships sparked quiet rumors, yet her music shouted freedom. Every riff, every lyric, every grin said what she couldn't. She was living her truth her way. 3. Alex Bradford. Alex Bradford changed gospel forever with his vibrant choirs, dramatic stage moves, and unmatched creativity. But behind that confident showmanship was a story of quiet hiding. In a time when flamboyance drew suspicion, he walked a fine line between art and acceptance. His joyful energy on stage came from a place of pain that few ever saw. Through his music, he created a world where difference could exist without fear. Every shout and harmony became a coded message of freedom. 2. Willie Mae Ford Smith. Willie Mae Ford Smith was one of gospel's earliest pioneers, a preacher-singer who broke barriers before it was safe to do so. Her boldness in the pulpit inspired generations, but her personal life remained carefully guarded. In a world that expected silence, she built her own kind of strength, one rooted in spirit, not secrecy. Every time she sang, her voice carried both conviction and compassion. Her story proves that some truths don't need to be spoken to be powerful. James Cleveland. James Cleveland, the king of gospel, was larger than life. His voice led millions. His choirs shaped the sound of worship, and his influence stretched far beyond the church. But behind that legacy was a man who lived under a heavy shadow. Whispers followed him for decades, yet he never stopped serving through song. His music taught love, grace, and mercy, even when he struggled to receive them himself. James Cleveland didn't just sing about salvation, he lived searching for it. So now that you know the truth behind these gospel legends, it makes you wonder, how many more voices were forced to stay silent just to be heard? Their courage and pain reshape the meaning of faith, music, and freedom in ways few ever realized. Do you think the gospel world is finally ready to embrace every part of its truth? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more untold stories that the music industry tried to keep quiet.